I grew up around many Navajo and Apache natives who have shared with me many ancient tales and warnings not to travel into certain blacklisted regions in the deserts for what evil lurks there. People who started villages and sects of life were destroyed by this evil. The same evil that is said to come from deep within the Sonoran desert has made its way far north to where we thrive and inhabit. I myself am half native and try and embrace my culture and belief system as much as I can. There is truth to the wisdom that is spoken to me through my people and friends. I have a deep love for this nation and do not wish to see it tarnished by the black magic of those evildoers that wish to wreak havoc upon it. The peace that is currently being upheld today is only because of certain protections and wards against those of the darkness, the Great Spirit. I know your channel is all about bringing alertness to these creatures that exist and practice evil out in the world, so that they can grow in their power and prey upon the weak. But I can share this information with you in hopes that you can share it on your channel, and then maybe more people will become aware of what truly exists out there and to stay away from. The more victims these creatures of evil claim, the more power they obtain, the more reign they have. You have spoken much about the shapeshifters of my land that practice magic and wear the skins of coyotes and other kills. But there is a far more powerful and smaller sect of shapeshifters that lie beneath the ground in caverns and underneath the deserts. The more power they obtain, the more their influence reigns in my region, the Navajo Nation, and even further north. These shapeshifters take the form of large desert reptilian serpents, serpent beings that devour dreary wanderers and tourists alive, or capture them to be taken back to have the life force sucked out of them. I've heard others call this same life force adrenochrome. I believe that's the scientific name for it, but that's what these shapeshifters feed on. They come out at once the sun is set in the sky, to wander the deserts at night, seeking those that they can prey upon easily. They are said to inhabit the bowels underneath the sands. There are many caverns underneath the deserts that should be closed up, and people should stay far away from. Several have already been turned into tourist attractions for those that enjoy underground caverns. This is very dangerous and potentially invoking the presence of these beings. I'm still not clear whether this sect of shapeshifters is even humans or something far more vile. Unlike the shapeshifters here, these entities possess far greater strength and can hide away much easier, revealing themselves only when they want to be revealed. They will even go as far as camouflaging themselves as a regular native, just to try and lure persons from nearby tribes away. I don't think it to be a coincidence that these shapeshifters are the only things to come out of the area of the desert. My people have talked about flying demons that also live beneath the desert sand. I personally believe these to be in alignment with these shapeshifters, or possibly even under their control to scout the area, looking for the next victim. I'm giving you this information because people who want to tour the area or just passing by need to be extremely aware and understand that driving through the area at night is incredibly dangerous. You need to be very careful, and you wouldn't believe me if I told you how many people go missing that are taken captive by these things, but are written off as lost to sex trafficking. It's horrendous. I'm just trying my best to keep my people safe by informing the uneducated. Please, it would mean the world to me if you could share this message. At least many who listen to it will take my warning and understand the true dangers that lie outside beneath the sands. My uncle, who is a Navajo Nation police respondent, came across a group of teenage girls huddled together on the morning hours of September 1st, 2018, startled, crying, and frightened by something. They were far out in the desert, miles from the nearest road, and claimed to be driven there by what they described as a man who turned into a demon. The man was not like your typical skinwalker, and did not wear animal skins and religious garments. He dressed with a black clay covering his entire body and a single loincloth. And then he changed into this demon, they said, with eyes so black they were almost white. This man, or demon, was intent on killing them, so it chased these girls far out in the middle of the night in the desert. It grabbed one of the girls, ripped a clump of her hair out, and she had a huge clump of hair missing. Blood had dried and ran down her scalp. One of the girls that was with them was reported missing and was actually never found, even after a thorough investigation had been in full effect. The 4 girls out of 5 claim this demon man took this girl and took her away. They have no clue to where he took her. The girls were questioned why they were there and what they were doing. The nearest road being only a few miles away, they were en route to going home after a party in the early morning hours when they got a flat. While trying to change the tire, they were approached by a fierce-looking man who came out of the desert and threatened them with rape and violence, which led to him physically chasing them into the night, where they ran for a long time, where they were eventually found huddled up together around this large rock. The slowest of the girls was the youngest at 14, and was the one that was grabbed and taken away. Stories like this happen all the time here on the reservation, and it's kept very quiet, so not often words get out. Encounters with beings like skinwalkers and evil spirits are far more common than just drunks and thieves. It's a dangerous world out here, and it's currently not welcome to visitors, even if they are of Navajo descent. My story takes place along the Bryce Canyon National Park in Utah. I encountered a handful of strange creatures, or what I would like to call desert witches that can shapeshift into reptilian beings. I would later find out from an experienced Navajo men and women that this was indeed true, and of course my friend. At the time, I was with my ex-wife, who during the time was my current wife. For the story, I will call her Jamie. I also feel the need to point out, though, that even the canyon isn't quite on Navajo reservation. It does border, and many of the Navajo have experienced wandering through the same canyon. Their experiences, from what I've learned, are very grim, to say the least, or so what I've heard. They claim this to be the territory of shape-shifting witches. Not the same thing as a skinwalker, I'm told. On this day, we were the only few people on the trail, and nobody else was really around. The isolation being bittersweet, although I rather enjoy the privacy. It made the situation so much more heightened. On this day, we made our way about 1.5 miles down into the canyon before this strange lady was walking in our direction, muttering some strange things under her breath. We got a really weird feeling about her and kept away. She wore a strange veil over her face, and her clothes seemed out of place. I can't quite place the description that would accurately describe to you what she had, but it reminded me of Middle Eastern clothing. We soon forgot about her and continued walking past and continued on. Shortly after, we began to hear strange sounds behind us and around us. My wife Jamie at the time began to express to me that she felt uncomfortable, like she was being watched. I told her to look around, that there's nobody out here. I didn't hear the sounds, only she did. She still couldn't budge the feeling though, and we soon found an area to sit down at to take a break and have some water and collect ourselves. We were in conversation for only a couple of minutes before we began to hear, both of us, what I would describe as religious chanting. It seemed to be coming from all around us and nowhere at the same time. Behind us, around us, above us, and below us. I thought we were hallucinating, but it kept getting louder and louder. Jamie and I can both hear it, as we're both frantically looking around, trying to find the source of this noise when this chanting starts to evolve into something much more disturbing. Growls and roars. The chanting grew and grew in volume, and then began to fade in sounds as the growls and roars took over. And then there was no more chanting, just roaring and growling. It sounded close by, but also far away. With the canyon structure and the rocks, I know the sounds can reverberate and play tricks on your ears, making you think there is something much closer than it actually is. Now, there was no more chanting, but it sounded like there were 20 lions trapped behind a rock or something, and it was seriously giving both of us the creeps. I didn't even have to motion to Jamie for us to get out of there before we ditched. Later on that day, after we had left, I told a close friend of mine what had happened, who happens to be full-blooded Navajo and knows the area around the reservation in the canyon and multiple other areas very well. He seemed scared when I told him what happened, and told me that I had apparently witnessed a shape-shifting ceremony, or at least heard it. This is what he described to me, that they were shape-shifting witches that go down into the canyon, and they usually sacrifice humans or animals and drink the blood and turn into these creatures. He did not exactly specify if there needed to be a sacrifice for them to shapeshift, but he did make it clear that they would get together and have some sort of ritual ceremony and turn into creatures. That would explain the loud roaring I heard and growls. It was terrifying. Even if his story that he told me did seem far-fetched, it matched up with everything we heard, which is terrifying. It would also explain the religious chanting that I heard. It very well reminded me of something you would hear out of the occult, or something along those lines in just another language. This can be marked as easily one of the scariest experiences I've ever had in my life, but I just can't explain what it is.